So this is the amount of lantana on the top part just starting this job. This is how deep and how thick it is just through this whole section here. This is what we're dealing with. So we've got to come in, we have to come in over some irrigation lines. So we have to climb over those without destroying them. Then we have to go through and we have to systematically pull all this stuff out of here. So that's what we're looking at. So yep, it's just a massive, massive array of this material. A sea of it. Okay.
Well, g'day folks, here we are again, having a look at some lantana snaps. So this is 100-year-old lantana. You look at all the trees in that material. This is about koalas and Australian native species. When you look at these photos, you can see nothing gets through this material. This is about 11 acres of this material right next to a rainforest. This media release is from the Palaszczuk Government. You really need to read that in the highlighted sections there, where they say that lantana inhibits the ability of koalas to get around. You know, after those couple of snaps you just saw there, do you really think they have problems getting around from tree to tree? You know, I've been saying this for years and fighting this war for years, and the Palaszczuk government's policies are that there's zero lantana operations. Now you look at it, suddenly they're giving gifts to Australia Zoo to support Australia Zoo with their work, and in that document they admit that lantana is absolutely devastating to the koala population. But what actually happens when all the lies are taken away from this stuff and all the deceit of the Palaszczuk government, you find that the truth is right here in this watercourse. This is council land on a watercourse, and you can see how all of this material has taken over this embankment. But when you look closer at the material, you'll see the other weeds that come with it, the wild tobacco and many of the other weeds. But how it completely stops any movement between the rest of the flora. This is such an important thing for people to really realise. Look, I'm from Indigenous heritage, and I can tell you I look for animals everywhere. I like to see what's happening, I like to see what's there and what's not. And this stuff, there's nothing. It's a lie to say that this material benefits things. Really is. You know, the occasional bird flying overhead's the only thing that goes through these areas. When you actually get right up close and personal to this material, you can look at the ground tracks there, and the animals give up. Once the material gets to a certain infestation level, they just give up. There's no benefit. There's no other species there for them to hunt and to eat, so they give up. Look at how does a koala get up that tree? How does an animal get anywhere through any of this stuff? And you imagine this material on a super scale like that first shot where the video was, and that's what that material was like for 11 acres and 100-year-old lantana that was. Now you look at this sort of stuff here, and this is further down the catchment from the very beginning of the South Pine River, at the headwaters of the South Pine River. So this infestation is a direct result of those infestations further up the hill. And those infestations are actually below where that other video was shot, of the very beginning of this one. You know, so, sorry about that. Look at the weeds growing right in the water. You know, so it really does make a huge difference to be able to show people what the real truth is. And finally, find the documentation that the government's aware of how devastating this material is to the flora and to the fauna, and how it becomes a monoculture and the biodiversity is lost. What most people don't realise is those first few photos there that I was showing of the still ones. If you really look at the photos and see what's under this material, see like this here, I fly in there, we're looking at the material, see there's no real paths, but you can't see the number of trees this material has already killed. in those first few shots on the 100-year-old Lantana, you can see massive amounts of trees. Now, in that one little area, we pulled out about 3 semi-trailer loads of dead and dried timber under this sort of structure. And you would not have known from... sorry about that. You would not have known from the outside, like from an aerial footage like this, that material was under there. So when you have the bushfires through the national parks where this material has already killed the existing flora, you have no idea of what the fuel load is on the ground level. So firefighters really cannot effectively fight fires, and nothing can get away from this material. When there's a fire burning here you can't see and it's pushing you in a direction, you hit a wall of lantana. That's what happened to the animals up in the North Queensland fires, and that's the beginning, those fires up there. That's not the end. That's only the beginning under the Palaszczuk government's history of how they've managed this material. All through the council levels, the state government is saying that there's zero funding for lantana at all. Yet they go and give a gift to Australia Zoo to say, well, yes, we know that that the lantana is that detrimental to the native species. You know, they couldn't lie straight in bed. But at the end of the day, this is what we're left with. We're left with 14 million hectares of this material, growing at a rate the size of Tasmania every year, and our state and federal government says this is low risk. When you look at the ground level there, there's nothing been walking through under those materials. It shows you the devastation to become a monoculture and the biodiversity lost, and the animals don't interact with the flora anymore. And it's so important that they continue to interact in these areas. But to leave this material growing in watercourses where we've already established that the seeds float, both for this and wild tobacco. So each year they drop more and more seeds at their base waiting for a major rain event, which this is on the corner of a floodway. So when the water does come pouring through here, when we do have a major rain event, it picks all those seeds up. Now it could be years and years of seeds. It could be 6-10 years of seeds if we haven't had a major rain event for a long time. And then all of a sudden it flushes them all at once. And this is what the state government has not a clue about these things, nor does the councils. When you see that many seeds getting flushed out into open country, that's why when we have major rain events and then all of a sudden the lantana just explodes after that, that's what's happened. The material has been storing and storing and storing those seeds, but it doesn't bury the seeds. The seeds sit on and around the leaf litter, waiting for a major wash and flush of water to blast them out. And there's this lack of understanding on the sides of roads and steep and high country. Steep and high country is the number one places that we have to get rid of this material. We cannot leave it on the sides of roads on steep elevations where they're large cuttings, because it gives these perfect environments for this material to take off and flush downstream. Anyway, that's another short video on the koalas and on the lantana. And finally we have documented proof that Annastacia Palaszczuk and her government are well and truly aware of exactly how devastating lantana is to the rest of the flora and the endangered species. And yet they have zero operational funding for any works in any areas around our 98% of the nation that's written off under their government policies. It's time we hit back and time we took our country back. I'm Gary from Lantana Removal Queensland, 0449 986 880, lantanaremovalqueensland.com.au, and Facebook group. Check us out, join the group. Thanks for stopping by. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.